Scifi were a race of highly advanced beings, known across the galaxy for their intelligence and scientific progress. They had conquered disease, perfected genetic engineering, and eliminated the inefficiencies of natural reproduction. Every new generation was grown in laboratories, designed for specific roles in society. For centuries, they had studied other species from a distance, analyzing their biology and culture before deciding if they were worth contacting. And now, after years of silent observation, they had finally chosen their next subject, humans. Among the researchers assigned to study humanity was Vela, a young and curious Scifi scientist. She had read every report, watched countless surveillance recordings, and memorized every detail about Earth's dominant species, but nothing could have prepared her for her first face-to-face interaction with a human. She stood in a sleek, white Scifi research vessel, parked just outside an Earth research facility. Across from her sat Ethan Carter, a biologist chosen by Earth's scientific community to represent humanity. Vela observed him carefully. He looked so basic. His skin was soft, his limbs oddly proportioned, and his facial features lacked the sharp, symmetrical precision of a genetically optimized being. And yet, his eyes were full of curiosity and intelligence. Ethan, on the other hand, was trying not to stare. Vela had an otherworldly beauty. Her skin had a soft lavender hue, and her silver blue eyes seemed to glow faintly under the ship's bright lights. Her long, dark hair moved slightly, as if responding to unseen energy in the air. "So," Ethan finally said, breaking the silence, "I heard you've been studying us for a while." Vela nodded. "Yes, the Scifi observe all potential contact species before making direct communication. Your people have displayed surprising adaptability and survival instincts." "Thanks, I guess," Ethan chuckled. "So, what do you want to know?" Vela hesitated. There were many things she was curious about, but one question had been bothering her ever since she started researching humans. Finally, she leaned forward slightly and asked, "Is it true that humans breed with their bodies?" Ethan nearly choked on his own breath. Excuse me." Vela tilted her head, her expression calm and analytical. "Our records indicate that humans do not use cloning facilities or genetic replication chambers. Instead, reproduction is a physical act." She blinked. "You actually create offspring inside your own bodies." Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. He was not prepared for this conversation. Yeah, that's how it works." Vela's silver blue eyes widened. "And you willingly endure this inefficient process?" "I mean, I wouldn't call it inefficient," Ethan said carefully. "It's just natural. That's how life has evolved on Earth." Vela took out a small holographic device and tapped a few buttons. A projection appeared in the air, displaying what looked like a Scifi cloning facility. "On my world, new generations are created in controlled environments. Every life form is engineered for maximum efficiency. We do not leave reproduction to random genetic chance." She shook her head. "But humans, you allow uncalculated variation. You introduce unpredictable genetic traits. And you accept the risks of biological reproduction." Ethan nodded. "Yep, that's kind of what makes us, us." Vela frowned. "And the gestation period? Our reports say it takes months for a human to develop inside another human." Ethan nodded again. "About 9 months, yeah." Vela's hands twitched as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "That is incredibly inefficient." Ethan smirked. "Maybe, but it's also part of what makes us special." Vela stared at him, processing his words. The Scifi had spent centuries perfecting their methods, eliminating randomness, and ensuring complete control over their species' development. And yet, here was a species that thrived despite the chaos of natural reproduction, a species that had spread across its planet, reached for the stars, and continued to survive against all odds. Her scientific mind told her it was absurd, but another part of her, The part that had always been curious, always searching for new knowledge, felt something else. Fascination. For the first time in her life, Vela wondered, had the Sci-Fi overlooked something important? Vela sat in the bright, sterile research chamber of the Sci-Fi ship, her mind spinning with confusion. Across from her, Ethan Carter took a sip of his coffee, watching the alien scientist as she rapidly tapped notes into her holographic device. "So," she said slowly, her voice unusually uncertain, "you are confirming that human offspring take months to grow inside another human?" Ethan smirked. "Yep. About 9 months, give or take." Vela's silver-blue eyes widened. 9 whole months. She shook her head. And the parent carrying the offspring must continue functioning during this period. Ethan chuckled. "Well, yeah, life doesn't just stop. Pregnant people still work, walk around, do everything normal. Just, with extra weight." Vela stared at him, completely horrified. "How does your species survive like this?" Ethan laughed. "It's not that bad. Sure, it's tough, but that's what makes it special. It's part of being human." Vela looked down at her holographic screen, scrolling through notes she had taken before arriving on Earth. She had read about human reproduction, of course, but she had assumed there was some mistake in the records. No advanced species could willingly endure such an inefficient process. "I still do not understand," she admitted. "Why does your species allow this?" Ethan leaned back in his chair. "Because that's just how life works on Earth. We evolved this way. Our bodies are designed for it." He grinned. "Besides, it's not just about making babies. There's a whole process. Building relationships, forming families, raising kids. It's about love, trust, and connection." Vela frowned. "Connection." Ethan nodded. "Yeah. We don't just create new humans and leave them to survive alone. We raise them, teach them, protect them." He shrugged. "It's not just about reproduction. It's about family." Vela tapped her fingers against the table, deep in thought. "My species does not do this. Our offspring are grown in controlled environments, monitored by scientists and educated by automated systems. Parents do not raise their own offspring." Ethan tilted his head. "Then how do you form relationships?" Vela blinked. "Relationships. Yeah," Ethan said. "Like bonds, friendships, love. Do Sci-Fi families spend time together?" Vela hesitated. "We do not have families in the way you describe. Each new generation is designed for a purpose. We are assigned to our roles in society based on our genetic optimization. Emotional bonds are unnecessary." Ethan frowned. "That sounds kinda lonely." Vela looked away. She had never considered loneliness before. Sci-Fi lived efficient lives, focusing on progress and knowledge. There was no need for emotional attachment. But as she watched Ethan, she saw something strange in his expression, something she didn't understand. Before she could ask, Ethan leaned forward. "Okay, let me put it this way. Imagine you grow up in a place where someone teaches you everything, but they don't care about you. They don't hug you when you're sad. They don't cheer you up when you're down. They just teach and leave." Vela slowly nodded. "That is how our learning centers function." Ethan smiled, but it was a sad smile. "Now imagine growing up with parents who love you. They take care of you when you're sick, protect you when you're scared, and celebrate your successes. Even when you make mistakes, they're still there." He leaned back. "That's what makes humans different. We don't just make life. We care for it." Vela stared at him, silent. The idea was strange. Finally, she said, "But your method is inefficient." Ethan laughed. "Maybe. But it's also what makes us strong." Vela narrowed her eyes. "Strong?" He nodded. "Think about it. We're not the fastest species. We're not the strongest. But we protect each other. We fight for each other. We build societies where people care. And that's why we survive." Vela processed this information carefully. The Sci-Fi had spent centuries perfecting themselves, eliminating emotions, optimizing their genetics, and ensuring everything was controlled. But humans, they embraced chaos. They accepted inefficiency, and somehow, they thrived. She tapped a final note into her device. Hypothesis. Perhaps humanity's greatest strength is not in their biology, but in their bonds. For the first time, she wondered if the Sci-Fi had overlooked something truly important. Vela walked through the bustling streets of the human city, her sharp silver-blue eyes scanning everything around her. Tall buildings stretched into the sky. Flashing lights flickered with advertisements, and crowds of people moved in every direction. It was chaotic, noisy, and strangely fascinating. Ethan Carter walked beside her, hands in his pockets, a small smile on his face. He had grown used to Vela's endless questions, but her reactions never stopped amusing him. "Humans really live like this?" she asked, tilting her head as a group of children ran past, laughing loudly. "So much disorder." Ethan chuckled. "Yeah, but that's kind of the beauty of it." Vela sighed. "Your cities are overcrowded, your transportation is inefficient, and your people are constantly interacting in unnecessary ways." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Unnecessary?" She gestured to a small cafe where a group of people sat, talking and laughing. "Why do humans gather in places like this? What purpose does this serve? They are not exchanging vital knowledge or performing important work." Ethan grinned. "They're socializing." Vela frowned. "Socializing. Is this a requirement for your survival?" "In a way, yeah." Ethan gestured around. "Humans are social creatures. We don't just live to work or learn. We build friendships, we form bonds, we create families, not just by blood, but by connection." Vela thought about this as they continued walking. Sci-Fi didn't have these kinds of gatherings. They worked in assigned roles, lived in structured environments, and only interacted when necessary. There were no unnecessary conversations, no random laughter, no waste of time. Yet, as she watched the humans, she couldn't help but feel curious. Ethan suddenly stopped. "Hey, I want to show you something." He led her into a large, decorated hall. Inside, dozens of people sat in rows, all watching a beautifully dressed couple standing at the front. Flowers, soft music, and a warm glow filled the space. "What is this?" Vela whispered. "A wedding," Ethan said. Vela's eyes widened slightly. "This is one of your reproductive ceremonies." Ethan laughed quietly. "Not exactly. A wedding is when two people promise to spend their lives together. It's about love, partnership, and commitment." Vela watched as the couple exchanged vows, speaking with emotion in their voices. The crowd smiled, some even wiping away tears. Then the couple kissed, and the entire room erupted in cheers and applause. Vela blinked. Strange. Why do they celebrate? Ethan looked at her. "Because love is important to us. It's not just about survival, it's about meaning. About sharing life with someone." Vela was silent for a long moment. On Sci-Fi, there were no weddings, no ceremonies, no commitments based on emotion. And yet, she found herself unable to look away. Later that night, Vela sat in the Sci-Fi research station, deep in thought. Her people always considered themselves superior, logical, efficient, freed from the distractions of emotional attachment. But after what she had seen today, she wasn't sure anymore. Humans were not just surviving. They were thriving. They chose to be with others. They built relationships. They celebrated unions. And they created bonds that lasted lifetimes. She glanced at Ethan, who sat across from her, casually drinking another cup of coffee. "Your people are very connected," she admitted. Ethan smiled. "Yeah, it's what keeps us going." She tapped her fingers against the table. "And you believe this connection is part of your strength?" "Absolutely," Ethan said. "Humans have faced wars, disasters, and struggles for thousands of years. We don't just survive because we're smart. We survive because we protect each other, because we fight for the people we love. Vela considered this carefully. The Sci-Fi believed strength came from perfection, from removing weakness, from controlling life itself. But perhaps, just perhaps, humanity had found another way. Vela updated her research notes. New theory: human emotional bonds may provide a survival advantage. Further study required. She looked at Ethan and, for the first time, felt something unfamiliar. Not confusion, not scientific curiosity. Something else. Something she didn't yet have a word for. Vela had spent her entire life believing in the superiority of the Sci-Fi. They were a species of precision, efficiency, and control. Their society functioned without chaos, without distraction, and certainly without unnecessary emotions. But now, after spending time among humans, she was beginning to doubt everything she had been taught. She sat inside the research station, reviewing her notes, when Ethan walked in. He carried 2 cups of coffee, setting one down in front of her. "Figured you'd be working late," he said with a grin. Vela stared at the cup. "I did not request this." Ethan shrugged. "Yeah, but I thought you might like it." She frowned. "Why would you expend effort to provide something I did not ask for?" Ethan chuckled, taking a sip of his coffee. "Because that's what friends do." Vela blinked. "Friends?" "Yeah," Ethan said. "People who care about each other, who look out for each other. You know, like a connection beyond just work." Vela hesitated. The concept was foreign to her. Sci-Fi did not form personal bonds. They had colleagues, research teams, and mission partners, but not friends. Still, she couldn't deny that she felt something. She had grown used to Ethan's presence, to his jokes, to the way he explained things with such energy. She found herself looking forward to their conversations. Was this what humans called friendship? She was about to ask when the station's alert system blared. A red holographic warning flashed across the screen. "Emergency. Hostile forces. DETCTE." Ethan jumped to his feet. "What's happening?" Vela's hands moved quickly over the control panel. "There is an unidentified ship entering Earth's orbit, and it is not Sci-Fi." Ethan frowned. "Who is it?" Vela's expression darkened. "A species known as the Vortha. They are warlike, conquering worlds, and enslaving weaker species. If they are here, it is not for peaceful reasons." Ethan's jaw clenched. "So what do we do?" Vela hesitated. The logical answer was simple: retreat. The Sci-Fi did not involve themselves in conflicts that did not concern them. It was not their way. But then she looked at Ethan, at his people, at the world she had started to understand. If the Vortha attacked, the humans would fight. They would not run. They would not surrender. They would stand together. And for the first time in her life, Vela felt something unexpected, something that had never been part of her genetic programming: the need to protect. She took a deep breath and turned to Ethan. "We fight." Ethan's eyes widened. "Wait, really? I thought Sci-Fi didn't get involved in conflicts." Vela straightened. "We do not, but perhaps we should." Ethan grinned. "Now that's the kind of thinking I like." The alarm blared louder, and outside the window, the night sky lit up with the glow of an approaching enemy fleet. The battle for Earth was about to begin. The night sky over Earth glowed with an eerie red hue as the Vortha warships entered the atmosphere. Their massive metallic forms cast dark shadows over the city below, and panic spread among the human population as alarms blared through the streets. Inside the Sci-Fi research station, Vela stood before a large holographic display, analyzing the enemy fleet. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel, gathering data. Ethan Carter stood beside her, his fists clenched. "How bad is it?" Vela's silver-blue eyes flickered with calculation. "The Vortha fleet consists of 5 warships. Their technology is superior to yours. If they attack directly, Earth's military will not hold for long. Ethan exhaled sharply. Great. So what's the plan? Vela hesitated. The logical response was to retreat. The Sci-Fi never interfered in wars that did not involve them. But something inside her, something new, told her that this time, leaving was not an option. She looked at Ethan, at the determination in his eyes, at the way he refused to show fear. Despite the overwhelming odds, humans did not run. They fought, not because they were the strongest, but because they stood together. And for the first time in her life, Vela wanted to stand with them. She straightened her back. We will fight. Ethan blinked in surprise. Wait. We? As in, you're actually going to help? She nodded. Yes. The Sci-Fi have advanced defense technology. If I can access my ship, I can activate a disruption field that will weaken the Vorth's shields. But I will need time. Ethan grinned. Then we'll buy you time. The battle begins. The Vortha warships opened fire. Blazing energy beams streaked down from the sky, striking Earth's defense systems. Explosions shook the ground as humans scrambled to respond. Fighter jets launched, missiles fired, and emergency evacuation orders spread through the city. Ethan and Vela sprinted through the chaos, making their way to the Sci-Fi stealth ship hidden outside the city. It was sleek and silver, nearly invisible against the night sky. As they reached the entrance, Vela placed her hand on the control panel, and the door slid open. She rushed inside, immediately activating the ship's systems. Ethan followed, glancing at the advanced alien technology. Okay, what do we need to do? Vela's fingers moved rapidly over the glowing controls. I am activating the disruption field now. It will take 3 minutes to charge. Ethan peeked through the ship's viewport. We might not have 3 minutes. Outside, the Vortha had deployed ground forces, towering mechanical war drones with glowing red eyes. They stomped through the city, their energy weapons tearing through human defenses. Ethan's communicator crackled. This is Captain Reynolds of Earth Defense. We're being overwhelmed. Requesting any available reinforcements. Ethan clenched his jaw. Vela, how do we stop those things? Vela's eyes flickered with thought. Sci-Fi ships are equipped with EMP pulses. I can disable the Vortha drones temporarily, but it will expose our position. Ethan didn't hesitate. Do it. Vela took a deep breath and pressed the command. Outside, a pulse of blue energy rippled from the ship, sweeping through the battlefield. The Vortha drones shuddered, sparks flying from their metallic bodies as they collapsed. The human soldiers wasted no time. With renewed energy, they charged forward, taking down the disabled drones before they could recover. Inside the ship, Vela watched the battle unfold. She felt something strange. Pride. Satisfaction. She had helped. She had made a difference. The disruption field was nearly charged. Just a few more seconds. Suddenly, an alarm blared inside the ship. Vela's breath caught. We have been detected. Ethan cursed. Let me guess. They're coming straight for us. Vela nodded. 2 Vortha warships are locking onto our location. We must act now. The final choice. Vela's hands flew across the controls. The disruption field is ready. I am activating it now. A wave of invisible energy burst from the ship, spreading across the sky. The Vortha warships shuddered as their shields flickered and weakened. Ethan's communicator crackled again. This is Captain Reynolds. The enemy shields just dropped. We're launching everything we've got. Outside, human fighter jets and missile systems unleashed hell on the vulnerable Vortha warships. Explosions lit up the sky as one of the massive enemy ships erupted into flames. But the remaining warships had detected the source of the disruption. Ethan's eyes widened as the second Vortha warship turned its cannons toward them. Vela, we need to move. Vela's fingers trembled slightly. They had done what they came for. The humans had a chance now. But the Sci-Fi ship was not built for war. It could not withstand a direct hit. Her eyes met Ethan's. There was only one way to survive. I am going to overload the ship's core, she said. The energy burst will blind their sensors and allow us to escape. Ethan nodded. All right. And that won't, blow us up. Vela hesitated. The probability of survival is low. Ethan exhaled. Figures. Then he grinned. Well, let's do it anyway. She didn't understand how humans could smile in the face of danger. But as she pressed the final command, she found herself smiling back. The ship's core flared with energy, releasing a massive shockwave. The Vortha's targeting systems glitched, their cannons firing wildly into empty space. Vela grabbed Ethan's wrist. Hold on. She activated the emergency warp drive, and in a flash of blue light, they vanished. The Sci-Fi ship reappeared in deep space, far from Earth's orbit. Inside, Vela and Ethan collapsed onto the floor, gasping for breath. The emergency warp had worked, but barely. The ship's systems flickered, warning lights flashing across the control panels. Ethan groaned, sitting up. Well, that was insane. Vela took a deep breath, steadying herself. We survived. She quickly checked the sensors. Earth was still visible in the distance, and the battle continued. But now, with the Vortha shields down, the human forces had a real chance. They were fighting back. Ethan peered at the readings. Looks like your plan worked. They're holding the line. He let out a small laugh. You just saved Earth, Vela. Vela blinked, staring at the display. She had spent her life believing that non-interference was the best path. That logic and distance were the keys to survival. But today, she had broken every rule. And it felt right. She turned to Ethan. We saved Earth. He grinned. Told you humans don't go down easy. She couldn't argue with that. A call from home. Before she could say more, a sharp beeping interrupted them. The holographic communicator flared to life, and a tall, severe-looking Sci-Fi male appeared on the screen. Hi, Director Talvek. Vela immediately stiffened. This was bad. Talvek's eyes, cold and calculating, narrowed as he stared at her. Vela, you have violated Sci-Fi protocols. Your interference in an undeclared war is unacceptable. Ethan crossed his arms. You mean saving innocent people? Talvek ignored him. Return to the fleet immediately, Vela. You will answer for your actions. Vela's pulse quickened. Her entire life, she had followed Sci-Fi law. She had obeyed orders, respected protocol, and never once defied a command. But now, she wasn't sure she could go back. Ethan leaned toward her. Vela, you don't have to do this. Talvek's voice was sharp. You are Sci-Fi. Do not let these humans corrupt your judgment. Vela met his gaze. Perhaps, she said slowly, my judgment was already flawed. Talvek's expression darkened. If you do not comply, you will be exiled. Ethan's hands curled into fists. Oh, real nice. So because she helped people, you're going to throw her away. Talvek's eyes flickered with disdain. She broke the law. Vela hesitated. Exile was the worst fate for a Sci-Fi. It meant losing everything. Her home, her status, her place among her people. But when she looked at Earth, at the people she had fought for, she realized something. She didn't want to go back. Her voice was steady. Then I accept exile. Talvek's expression didn't change, but there was a flicker of something in his eyes. Disappointment, perhaps even respect. Then you are no longer Sci-Fi, he said simply. The screen flickered and went dark. It was done. She was alone. Or was she? Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. For what it's worth, Vela, you're not alone. You've got us. She turned to him, searching his face. He meant it. Humans weren't like the Sci-Fi. They didn't abandon their own. Maybe, just maybe, she had gained something new. Not exile. A new home. The silence inside the Sci-Fi ship felt heavier than before. Vela had just made the most important decision of her life. She had chosen exile. She had chosen humanity. Ethan studied her carefully. You okay? Vela took a deep breath. I do not know. Her entire identity had been stripped away in an instant. No more orders. No more status. No more home among the Sci-Fi. And yet, for the first time, she felt free. She turned her gaze to the holographic display. Earth's skies were still burning, but the human forces were winning. The last of the Vortha warships were retreating, their invasion completely undone by a species they had underestimated. Ethan grinned. Looks like we did it. Vela nodded. Yes, but the Vortha will return. Their kind does not accept defeat easily. Ethan smirked. Yeah, well, neither do we. She had learned that much already. Returning to Earth. With the battle nearly over, they piloted the damaged Sci-Fi ship back toward Earth. The city below was scared, the damage clear, but despite everything, humanity endured. As they approached the landing zone, the radio crackled. This is Captain Reynolds of Earth Defense. Unknown vessel, identify yourself. Ethan grinned and responded. Relax, Captain. It's us, and we brought back a hero. There was a long pause before Reynolds spoke again. Copy that, Carter. Welcome home. Home. Vela had never considered Earth her home before. She had been an observer, a scientist, a visitor. But now, she had no other place to go. And for the first time, that didn't feel so bad. A hero's welcome. As they landed, human soldiers and civilians gathered around. Some were bruised, some were wounded, but all of them were alive. And that was what mattered. Ethan helped Vela step out of the ship. The moment they did, Captain Reynolds approached, his expression serious. You helped save this planet, Reynolds said, looking directly at Vela. That means something. Vela tilted her head. I only did what was necessary. Reynolds smirked. That's what all heroes say. The humans around them cheered, and for the first time, Vela felt something warm in her chest, something unfamiliar but pleasant. Was this what humans called belonging? A future among humans. As the sun rose over the city, Vela stood next to Ethan, watching the horizon. So, Ethan said, what now? Vela hesitated. What now? That was a question she had never asked herself before. Sci-Fi life was planned, calculated. But here, with humans, there was no plan. And yet, that no longer scared her. I do not know, she admitted. But I wish to find out. Ethan grinned. Well, you're in the right place for that. She turned to him. Do you truly believe I can live among humans? Ethan's smile softened. You already do. Vela thought about that. She had once believed that humans were strange, reckless, and inefficient. But now she understood the truth. They were resilient. They were compassionate. They were family. And now, they were her family. As the humans rebuilt their world, Vela knew one thing for certain. She had found where she belonged.